Let him cook. Let him cook now. Let him cook. I said let him cook.
See the MVP, passing it off like CP3. Shawty, she calling me MVP. I be on time, it's something you ain't never seen before. They call me the Dama, really want my whole team to score. Damn, yeah, too icy, yeah, too clean, yeah, my zone, yeah, 2-3, yeah, got shooters that hit from deep, bust like Giannis, yeah, too mean. Bright lights like we at the garden on P. Don't get me started. Whole team walk in, we the party. If I can't make the play, I'ma lob it. If you jump, that's right on your head. Had to put him to sleep, go to bed. I'm a star, drop 50 and left. From the logo, like I'm Steph. Put it up, knock him down every time. Going hard like my life on the line. Catch me on the course, I would've down. Never losing, I put it on mine. Had to get out my shell, I've been laying low. They get real when it comes to the playoffs. The fight with me, no one's KO.
Ladies and gentlemen, from La Casa de los Lobos, the Pit, here at the University of New Mexico, let's get ready to rumble!
I got to hit you with the AAA. Welcome to the Pit Press Live. My name is Ryan Tamori. Busy show tonight for you. We'll get to our first guest here in a moment. He's former UNM quarterback and Artesia Bulldog, Mr. Kole McKamey. Ben Wysong, lineage with the University of New Mexico. We'll talk about him, about his playing days, and obviously his nephew, and then what he thinks of the football team this year. And then Shannon Kelly I had to think about it, and it's right in front of me. Nevada Sportsnet, Shannon Kelly. We'll talk some Nevada football. So busy, jam-packed show. And to the guy who said we don't talk Lobo football, that's all we've been talking about the last month. So it was a very odd tweet, but I won't get into that. Jimmy H, I already see you're at it, so I drop with you the Trick Daddy. I had to clip that. Our next guest. Oh, excuse me. Let me introduce our panel. It's somewhat of the usual suspects. My business partner in this endeavor, and I don't know, you're a state champion as well from Capital 2004 basketball, Mr. Eric Moulton. Senor, how you doing?
I'm good, Ryan. I'm excited. We kicked this show off a little over a year ago, and we wanted to talk more UNM athletics and more nostalgic UNM athletics, and to get special guests like the one we have tonight. So I want to thank Kole for coming on, and thank you everyone for watching.
We'll get to him in a second, but I have to introduce a two-time offensive state lineman for the St. Pius Spartans. He was under San Juan Mendoza, and Kole, I do this intro every time, so it's nothing new. I played basketball at St. Pius for Damian Segura, and as I always say, his most accomplished feat, other than being a husband and a father, is MVP of a Filipino league, men's rec league in the Bay Area, all the way from the Bay Area in Santa Clara, California. Ricky Thompson. Senor, how are you tonight?
I'm doing well, sir. I'm glad to have this special guest on, even though he ripped the heart out of me and many other Sarton fans. And then I had to go to the Bulldog Bowl myself for a tough trip a few years later. But I'm super pumped to have Kole on. I have a love-hate relationship with him. But I'm glad to talk to him in person and get this thing going. So thanks for having me on.
All right, we're going to go to our next guest, who's never going to come on the show again. He was a quarterback for UNM from 2002 to 2005. He's from Artesia, New Mexico. He is 10th all-time in UNM total offense with 4,199 yards, 3,359 passing, 840. 13 wins, played in 36 games with 22 of those starts. And before we bring him on, let's run the highlight.
Little play fake by McKamey. Looking downtown. Touchdown! Basket!
It was glorious. It was absolutely glorious. His name is Kole McKamey. Mr. McKamey, thank you for joining the show. How are you doing on this fine evening and enjoying your wine?
Guys, I am doing great. Yes, cheers. Salute to you guys. But yeah, thanks for having me on, Ryan and Eric and Rick. I'm looking forward to it. It's gonna be fun.
I'll start off with one of the first questions, and I think it's when we talk to a lot of former UNM players that played during Rocky's heyday. I always have to ask it because 20 years ago I bled, and then everybody hears that I became a sports reporter, and then I became an old grumpy man at like 21. But playing for Rocky Long and what he meant to the program, your opinion, can you just talk about what Rocky meant to you and what he meant to the University of New Mexico and the University of New Mexico football program?
Wow, a deep one right off the bat. All right. Now, I think we all can agree that Rocky was pretty special for this community, this university, especially, obviously the football team. But, there was something different about Rocky. When he came and recruited me, he sat at my dinner table, and my mom, being a mom, goes, I'm a little worried about, Kole holding up. I mean, in my senior year, I was 6'2", 175 pounds, dripping wet, right? And so as a mom, I'm a little worried how are you guys going to get him bulked up? How are you going to get him ready for college football? Of course, I'm like, Mom, come on, you're killing me. Be quiet, And he looked my mom squared in the eyes and said, I guarantee you myself, I'll make sure he puts on the weight. Fast forward 4 years, Rocky Long was my lifting partner. All 4 years I was there. So imagine now having your head coach lifting with you. You can't take a rep off. You can't slack off. You can't not show up. And by the way, I didn't outbench him until my senior year. I mean, that old man could lift. He was very, very, very strong. But that's the kind of guy, that's the kind of coach that Coach Long was. He was a player's coach, fun to be around. When it was time to mean business, he meant business. Practice was work hard, play hard. But just an all-around kind of player's coach kind of guy. So he meant a lot to me and a lot to the guys that I played with.
I just want to throw out there, you were weightlifting partners as a quarterback.
Yes,
with your
as
head
a
coach,
quarterback.
not an offensive
No.
lineman, not a D lineman.
Right.
That's crazy.
Exactly. So, I mean, there was, welcome freshmen. And, oh, by the way, your mom said something at the dinner table on when Coach Long came and visited us. He's going to stick to it. And so it was quite the next 4 years in that weight room. We'll put it that way.
That is one of the best stories we've had on doing this in a year and a half. I'm gonna go to Rick real quick. He looks like he's got a question.
I was just gonna say, could you talk a little bit more about the other teams that recruited you? I was just reading, Colorado, New Mexico State, and Marshall, and maybe Colorado wanted you to play a different position. Could you just talk about the other schools? Maybe a Boise State, I read.
So yeah, I mean, God, this is a long time ago, guys, but I believe I had anywhere from 11 to 15 Division I scholarship offers. And, Arizona State, Texas Tech, the Boise States, Alabama. Dennis Franchione wanted me to come play wide receiver and return kicks and punts. So there was kind of a mix all over there. Colorado was the school I was actually headed to, but they got hit with some recruiting violations later that year that made that not possible. But it really came down to 3 schools. I didn't want to do Purdue. It was too far away. I had a great trip at Marshall, but that was too far away. So it came down to UNM and Boise State. And, that recruiting experience was pretty incredible. Dan Hawkins was a head coach at the time at Boise. They'd come off 3, I think it was Humanitarian Bowls, and Chris Peterson was a quarterback coach. So that's who recruited me. But I took a trip there, and I took a trip to UNM, and the guys like Hank Baskett and Don Trail and Mike Mahork and Ryan Cook and DJ Renteria and Nick Spiegel, Josh Basnett. I mean, we're talking all New Mexico guys that were big-time players for the Lobos. On my recruiting trip, they said, we're doing something special. They all had offers all over the place, and they all chose to stay in state. And so that was really the kind of the weighing factor for me was, all right, I want to be a part of that. And I mean, that's, the rest is history. That's how I got here.
There is a ton of New Mexico talent now, and we're kind of seeing the opposite, right? I don't think it's anything against UNM specifically, but guys are deciding to go out of state and play at some other universities. But can you talk a little bit about your high school experience? I know maybe I'm stealing the question from Rick, but your time at Artesia and kind of how that formed you into the player that you end up being at UNM.
I don't think Rick really wants to talk about high school, right?
No,
I'm just kidding, buddy. I was told I get to give a couple of shots to some St. Pius Sartans tonight, so
yeah.
That's the first one.
I could give him all you
Eric's
want.
Eric's a capital guy, so he's not involved in this. You have to worry about Rick and I. You have to worry about all 5'7", 170 of me. But no, go. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I love it. No, man, growing up in Artesia and playing in that program it's really hard to describe. And obviously it's not just something that came around. It's something that has been a steadfast tradition in that town. High school football is everything. And when we're talking about, Texas football, West Texas football, it is the definition of that. And, we got a town of 12, 13,000 that shuts down every Friday night. It's a pretty special thing to grow up in. And I mean, in fact, the tradition that was laid before me, during my time, and after me has stuck with me in a lot of things, a lot of aspects of my life. But playing for Cooper Henderson, the thing that Artesia does so well, and it drives me nuts here in Albuquerque, and I'm trying to get Hope Christian to do this because they might actually be able to do this. But they take the kids when they get into 6th grade, okay? 6th and 7th is intermediate school. When they get into 6th grade and they decide they're going to play football, that's your first year tackle football, okay? They figure out your position, and you start running the same offense, the same defense, the same special teams, exact same language, verbiage, everything that you run when you're a senior in high school on the varsity team. So if you think about it, by the time they're 8th to 9th graders, they're veterans of these schemes, absolute veterans. There's no thinking on the field. It's reacting. It's being an athlete. It's playing within the scheme and the process. And, they don't have these incredible, crazy athletes. It's a program. And these kids buy into it. The coaches buy into it. And, I mean, you get to high school and you feel so comfortable in what you're doing. You don't get nervous. The big games are just the stuff you've been doing since you were a 6th grader. And there's very, very, very few places that can do that. And Artesia figured it out a long time ago, and they continue to do that. And as long as they keep doing that, they're going to be a powerhouse. They're going to be very, very hard to compete with.
Well, there's the answer to why we lost. I'm going to switch gears back to UNM, and for some reason, my scrawny ass, I love watching defense. It's my, and what the game's become maybe, and I didn't play. It's maybe not as defensive centric. Not that I want 5-0 Michigan over Penn State, but with UNM, we talked to Landrick Brody. We talked to Mike Mahorek last week. We've talked to Ian Clark. We've talked to Jared Baxter. But I bring up Mahorek and Ian Clark because of the style of the defense you played when you were there. Obviously, I know you're a quarterback. But Mahorek and Clark said, Rocky used to preach, okay, we might not have been the most talented team. We might not have won, but that team's going to fill it next week, and they might lose next week. What was it like going up against both of those? What was it like going up against those defenses in practice?
Very frustrating. In fact, it got to a point where, and a lot of my buddies that played offense, we still, kind of bitch about it, to be honest with you. That, I mean, when you play for a defensive-minded head coach, guess what? Your practices are geared around the defense, period. Okay? And so if the defense is having a great practice, coach is having a great practice. And if the defense is having a really bad practice, guess what? Practice just got 45 minutes longer. So, I mean, we went in these battles in practice of an offense and defense, and it got to a point where, we were scheming a couple of periods a day to be able to be our own defense. And so, that becomes a little frustrating as an offensive player, right? Where, hey, we're playing against Colorado State. We should only be worried about the Tampa 2 and how we need to, right, attack, 2-man or 2-zone. How are we going to hit hole throws? Where are we going to check reads to? No, we got two or three periods that we're scheming against our own defense. Now, it got to a point where, once Bronco went to BYU, we're playing against that exact same defense against BYU. But, I mean, it as an offensive guy, I could tell you it was frustrating. But, man, we sure liked it when we got in the game, and we knew they weren't going to score over 15 points, right, 20 points. All we had to do was get to 24 points when we had a pretty darn good chance of winning. So kind of a love-hate, as my man Rick has with Artesia.
No, that would be all hate, Kole. That would be all hate for Artesia.
Oh, you don't mean that.
I love you, and I hate Artesia. That's the love-hate. Can you talk a little bit, though, about, like, how you perfected running the option? Did you run that a lot in high school, and you were already comfortable with it once you got to the college rank? Because, I loved watching you run that, man. It was awesome.
Well, I'm glad you enjoyed watching me run it, because it wasn't very fun to run it. I'll tell you that. No, the picture you guys had on the link with me doing this, it's a black opposite check. This is how much I ran option in high school, right? Zero. We were shotgun, throwing the ball 90% of the time. The design runs we had were like quarterback counters. We were kind of actually already running a lot of the Urban Meyer spread, where there's actually quite a bit of run out of shotgun. We were doing that a lot in high school. And, but we would do, some really quick speed option stuff. but we always only checked it to a side where we know that we knew we were going to pitch. So now fast forward to UNM, and now we're talking, zone option and veer option and power option and speed option. And no, this was like a foreign world to me, but because I had some speed, had some size, and it was sort of the kind of start of UNM trying to figure out the athlete type of quarterback, right? The run and the throw. And so that was, it was fun to learn, not as fun to run unless, I broke one for a nice long run, but no, it was a beating on the body. I'll tell you that much.
Sticking on the offensive side, obviously running the option and having a really good back like Dontrell Moore to pitch it off to. Can you talk a little bit more about some of your other primary weapons like a Hank Basket and the types of relationships that you developed with them on and off the field?
Yeah, I mean, we had a really good talent pool of New Mexico guys too. Dontrell obviously was incredibly special. Knowing that, I remember times handing the ball off to Dontrell, and where I'm supposed to be carrying out a fake or whatever, I just watch him. I would just watch him make, a starting senior linebacker miss in a hole that's, not much wider than this, right? And so, he was special, and trying to get the ball in his hands as much as possible was always kind of our game plan. But then you have a guy like Hank that, Hank was an elite talent. Obviously, he had that incredible rookie season with the Eagles his first year. I think he was underutilized, but, when Deshaun Jackson came in from, Cal, it was pretty tough to compete there. But, Hank was one of those guys. He was extremely smart. So he could read coverage. He could adjust routes. He never missed a side adjust or a hot route. He was a student of the game. And so with that and with his athletic ability, that's a quarterback's best friend. Usually a lot of that comes in the tight end position. For most quarterbacks, that's kind of your bailout, where Hank was my bailout. And so, him and I perfected the back shoulder fade. And, I mean, we did that all the time against everybody. And in fact, that was my first touchdown pass. My college career was when I came in as a true freshman against New Mexico State. And I think we were down by a couple of touchdowns. We ended up winning the game. But I threw 2 touchdown passes to Hank, back shoulder. No one could defend it. The guy was a 7-foot high jumper. And I ran track against him. And I actually have an awesome high jump story if you guys have time. But I'm a freshman. No, sorry. I'm a sophomore in high school. And I've made the Artesia varsity track team. And I think I'm hot stuff. And I'm running relays, but mainly I'm there because I'm high jumping. I was a pretty decent high jumper. And so my first varsity track meet's in Clovis. And so, we're going and I start high jumping and I'm doing really well. And guys are they're getting out, they're missing heights. I keep going. And we get to, I think qualifying for state was 6'4". And so I clear 6'2", and all of a sudden I'm the only one left in. And I'm like, I am a stud. Like, I am a bona fide stud. The sophomore first track meet, I'm going to win this thing. So I walk over to the marshal and I say, hey, will you just take it up to 6'4"? I'd like to qualify for state. And he goes, oh, son. No, there's still one other person in. I'm like, oh, really? Yeah, this is his starting height. And I go, what? Who is this guy? He goes, oh, there he is right there. And Hank's running the 310 hurdles. He's got a fro this big. I'm not kidding. This big. He's running like this because his fro's catching in the wind. Smokes everybody. Probably by, 25, 30 yards, right? Smokes everybody. Jogs over to the high jump pit. And I'm sitting there, and I bet my jaw is probably on the ground. I'm like, who is this guy? He runs over. He runs up. He like, Hank, you're up. He scissor kicks 6'4". Scissor kicks, and I go, okay, I'm good with second place, I guess. And that's actually when Hank and I first met. And we got to be great buddies. through the track meets, and then of course going to UNM. So him and I developed a really special bond. We were roommates all through college. We're still very, very, very close friends and talk all the time. And he comes up here and plays golf, and we have a good time. But yeah, I developed some great friendships on the offensive side and the defensive side, of course. But offense, a quarterback and receivers, a pretty special bond that lasts a lifetime.
No, that's an awesome story. We appreciate you for that. I have and I asked Dontrell this question. He was like, "Oh yeah," and you handed the ball off to Dontrell, who I don't want to say it's cockiness. He's arrogant. He's a very confident guy. And I tell him he is Kole. You're moving up there. He's like out of all the UNM guys I've interviewed. I always joke with him. I said Daniel Ferris is 1A because Daniel's got some great stories. And I say Dontrell Moore is 1B, and he's like, "Oh man!" And I messed up his yardage on the first time we had him on. He goes, "No, Ryan, I had this, and I had this many touchdowns." I was like, "All right, I just disrespected maybe one of the best players in UNM football history." But where I'm going with that, Friday night, ESPN2, Texas Tech. What date was it? It was I don't have a date, but I lived and died with it. A couple other my buddies, we lived and died with the UNM football team in high school, and right before half. You threw it to Hank, and he caught the ball in the corner of the end zone, and the refs waved it no touchdown. Yep. If you remember the play I'm talking about, I've asked Dontrell this. Was it a touchdown?
Absolutely, it was. And I mean, we could get Hank on, and Hank would swear to you up and down. We went back and watched the film, of course, the next day on Sunday. He was totally. In fact, he had when he dove for that ball, the first thing that hit in the end zone were both of his knees, and then he went out of bounds. So I mean, it was. It was before that, we had those automatic replays and things like that, right? The Mountain West wasn't doing that yet. So, yeah, it should have never gone to field goal is what you're saying, Ryan, and I agree.
All right, we agree on something tonight, which is a good start for you as a guest. We appreciate it. I'm going to see if these two guys have a question, then we'd like to ask you about Bronco and yeah. I just a little bit of what you think, what can happen with the UNM football team and how to revitalize that program, but I'll throw it to Rick or Eric if they have a question.
Yeah, Kole, I'm assuming you still watch the game now just based on the way you're talking about it, or you just have a great memory. But what do you see now when you watch the college game that's different to you outside of maybe all these spread out offenses? Is there anything that stands out to you when you're thinking about, if you were playing today, how you would have to change your game?
Well, yes, and it's funny. I had some sales reps today, and we were talking about how, the evolution of the elite athlete at the edge rushing has changed the game, and it's changed in all facets of the game. If you look at the top 5 quarterbacks, top 7 or 8 quarterbacks in the NFL, they're athletes, right? They can all run around. You got the Josh Allens, the Mahomes, right? The Lamar Jacksons, the Dak Prescotts, all these guys that they can run around all over the place, and they have to. And edge rushing changed that. Edge rushing is also a way to sort of hide some of the deficiencies in the defense. But I would say that has changed the game more than anything, is that, the elite talent at the edge game has changed all offense, all defense, and how athletes are recruited, the schemes on offense. It really is. It's very different to what it was. Because, you look at what they have now on the edge, we had big guy. We had the DJ Renterias, right? The Zach Rupps, massive guys that could kind of fill the hole still, could chuck an offensive tackle here and there, but not the guys that are going to be faster than a running back on the edge, right? So in that, from an offensive standpoint, that's where your RPO came out, right? Now running to the outside became a pass, right? Running to the outside became jet sweeps and misdirection. You don't see a whole lot of counters and toss sweeps going anymore unless it's being checked to at the line of scrimmage because you got them outnumbered or out leveraged. So, that is that's a huge piece that's changed the game for when I played.
I do have one more question before we transition over, Ryan. But Kole, with the ever-changing game, I think it was a good segue question from Rick. But how the game is changing, not only just in college football, but in all of college athletics in general, with colleges being able to pay athletes now, and NIL in particular. Um, Obviously wasn't around when you played, but what is your opinion around, I mean, I guess the structure, which was formerly the NCAA, and their, I guess, limited control on that, but your overall opinion on how NIL operates, the opportunities it creates for student athletes, and how it could impact a school like UNM that might not have as many opportunities as there is with a Big 10, a Big 12, the SEC that now have what, 20 members in each conference now?
Yeah. So my initial honest opinion is 20 years too late, right? But I mean, the impact it's having on the college game is significant, and I'm not going to stand up on my soapbox and say that it's negatively affecting it or positively. I think there are some pros and cons. Johnny Manziel trying to kind of change the whole landscape for that, and how much schools and foundations could actually profit off of a collegiate athlete. So I think there's some good to it. I think it has to be regulated. Plain and simple, it's got to be regulated. Schools like mid-major schools like the Mountain West were already getting left behind because they can't generate that kind of revenue, right? Whether it's state-funded revenue, whether it's private-funded revenue from fundraising, ticket sales, right? I mean, these mid-majors can't generate that kind of revenue. And you look at the Texas A&Ms with the 12th Man Foundation, and their revenue when Johnny Manziel played went from like 200 million, which is insane. Like for that'd be insane for UNM. They went from 200 million to 850 million in 1 year, right? Because of a great athlete. That's the type of revenue these schools can generate. And so my point to that is it leaves mid-majors even further behind. And it's something that's tough to watch. It's something that is always a hot topic of discussion. But I think at the end of the day, when the dust settles, it's got to be regulated. And you got to make some sort of fair playing field, or you just have to separate the Power Five as one division and then everybody else is another division, because the ability to compete just based on revenue alone, that gap is just widening. I mean, significantly, right? So kind of a roundabout diplomatic political answer to your question, but I don't think there is any right or wrong answer. It's not perfect. They still need to work on it for sure. But man, yeah. 20 years too late. I'll still stand by that.
You probably could have got endorsements in high school, buddy.
We won't talk about those.
I don't have a quick pun or quip to that, but when you said the 20 when he said the 20 years too late, that's the best answer we've gotten on here in a while. So I appreciate that. Switching gears, and you have mentioned Bronco Mendenhall. I guess I'm throwing another softball PC question at you, but I think you'll still get it right. What kind of hire was Bronco for UNM at this time?
I think it was probably the very best hire they could have possibly made. If you just look at resume and production and his ability to turn around programs, I mean, just on that stuff alone, I mean, it was kind of a home run hire. I think some of the criticism is probably fair of, is it going to be kind of the same old former UNM guy coming back in and going to change the world? I think that was probably some fair criticism, but, Bronco's built different. If you guys have spent time with him, I haven't had the chance to spend time with him, but when he coached, when I played, he was different. He's built different. And there's a reason he's been so successful, in in the in his past experience. But my biggest thing is whoever they bring in has got to learn how to navigate the NIL landscape, and you got to think outside the box. I had a fantastic conversation with Patino on the golf course about this. And I'm not going into detail, but I mean, you got to think outside the box. You got to get creative because, again, UNM doesn't have the funding, doesn't have the money to throw around. And, whoever that hire was going to be has got to figure out the NIL for football. And, I'll leave it at that. I'm really excited about Bronco. And I think everybody that played that knows anything about him is just as excited as I am.
That's a good answer. No, I appreciate that. Eric or Rick, do you have anything left?
No, man. Just want to say thank you again, Kole, for coming on. Really appreciate your time, spending your Tuesday evening with us. And this is kind of why we're doing what we're doing, is to kind of go back and revisit some good times.
No, this is great. I appreciate it, guys. I'm sorry, Rick. Go ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Thank you, Kole. And I have to remind you that St. Pius did beat Artesia in '99. I believe you were a sophomore on the team.
I was a sophomore. I was a sophomore.
What role did you play in that game?
I was my sophomore and junior year. I started at receiver at Artesia. When I was a sophomore to senior with quarterback, he actually went to Baylor and played. And then when I was a junior, Cooper's son, Brian Henderson, was the senior quarterback. And, they kind of ran a lot of a Texas Tech type thing. The seniority gets to play unless you're Landry Jones, when you should be starting when you're a freshman, right? That guy was really special. But, no, it was really good to be on here with you guys. I appreciate what you're doing. You're bringing some exposure to UNM athletics in a different and a fun way. So this podcast, environment's a lot of fun. So you guys ever need anything, you reach out. Eric, you got my contact info. Well, I'm here anytime to yak it up about anything you guys want to. So I appreciate it.
We'll come back during basketball season and bug you, because I know you're at every game.
I try to be, I'm not as loud as Curtis and Pino or Paul Ortiz, but I do enjoy it.
What am I going to get in trouble for asking why they sit down there and you get this? You have seats up to like 10 rows up.
Guys, it's pretty obvious. You got to pay for those seats. I'm not paying for those seats.
Oh God! Oh, I thought there's that St. Pius education just going right down.
Yeah.
I thought there was something special there. I don't. Anyway, I really, really enjoyed this conversation. Kole, it was fabulous. You are. I say this a lot. I talk to a lot of people. I appreciate everyone up there. That one moved up a notch. When we have Dontrell next week, I'll tell him that. I'll tell him that I enjoy that. Dontrell's 1C. I absolutely love Dontrell.
He'll love that. He'll love that. I guarantee he's going to bring up, though. He's like, yeah, but last year I beat him in golf one time. And so I guarantee that's going to be his response. If you say that, I guarantee that will be his response, which he did. He had a very good day. Like just one of those days where like the angels came down and guided his ball everywhere he needed it to go.
Well, if he says that next week, we will clip that and we will send it to you, and maybe we'll add it to part of our intro. He played quarterback from 2000. He's a state champion at Artesia. He played quarterback at the university. Where did you play quarterback? I don't know where I got my degree too. At the University of New Mexico from 2002 to 2006. His name's Kole McKamey. Kole, we really, really appreciate you. We'll have you on. Hope you have a great rest of your week. Enjoy the rest of your wine, and we'll talk to you soon.
Awesome, guys. Appreciate it. Go Lobos. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
All right. We will take a quick commercial break, and then we will be back continuing on with the Lobo football train with Ben Wysong. You know the last name, and I'm looking forward to talking to Ben about his playing days as well. Quick commercial break. My name's Ryan Tamori. This is the Pit Press Live. What?
him cook now. Let him cook. I said let him cook.
Welcome back to the Pit Press Live. Let's see how we can do that. That's better for the moment. My name is Ryan Tamori. I'm joined by Rick Thompson, former All-State lineman at St. Pius. Really quickly, Rick, before we get to our next guest, Kole McKamey, all jokes aside from Artesia and Pius, that rivalry while we were at St. Pius, I thought Kole was great. He seemed to have a good sense of humor. I'd never talked to him during my time doing all these years of talking to former UNM athletes. He was super charismatic, sound really knowledgeable about the game. I don't want to sound cliche. I don't know. He was a pleasure talking to. I think he's up there with one of the best guests that we've had.
Yeah, definitely one of my favorite guests. Some great answers and some of those stories, that we've never heard of before, about him just deciding how he was going to choose to play with the Lobos, with all the UNM players kind of recruiting him into the program. And then those stories about Hank Basket just being a monster in the track and field realm is pretty cool. And just enjoyed chopping it up with him, man. Would love to have him on again and get his thoughts on everything, because sounds like he really knows a lot and still follows the game closely. And it was great having him on.
No, it was awesome. Our next guest has been waiting a while, and I'm happy finally to have him on. I promised him like a week or two ago, and I totally messed it up, and he's been super cool. He was at UNM from 2003 to 2006. He knew Kole McKamey, and he played his first year at Eastern New Mexico with Heath Riddenauer, head coach of Cleveland, and was offensive coordinator for Danny before transferring to UNM. His brother, Adam, Luke, and Evan Wysong's dad played at UNM as well, and was roommates with Brian Urlacher. I don't know if we'll completely bug you about that question. He played linebacker, and then he moved to the Lobo back. His name is Ben Wysong. Ben, welcome to the show. How are you doing?
Doing good, guys. Appreciate you guys having me on. It's like I don't even know how I'm going to be able to follow Kole now after that interview.
I was thinking about that, and I thought, oh shit, no, because I've been bugging you to come on. I mean, I saw you listen to some of the interview.
Yeah.
Can I just get your thoughts on Kole and what kind of player he was?
No, Kole. I mean, Kole was obviously a phenomenal player, but I mean, he was an even better teammate too. And it's funny, like just looking back, just hearing like all the other players like you had last week, like Mahork and Landrick. It was a very tight knit family. We were all very close. And it didn't even matter really what side of the ball you were on. We were all, we hung out together in the locker room. We were always hanging out together outside of school, and everything in between. So. But yeah, Kole was awesome. And it's even funny too, because I was a Moriarty Pinto. So I had to endure that for 2 years, going from that transition from 3A to 4A, where they stuck us with Artesia, Roswell, and Goddard. And yeah, we got the brunt end on that one. So
I watched drunkenly from the stands, at least my senior year. You can ask Rick about playing that schedule, because I remember going to Roswell. What year, Rick, did I mess it up where Pius went to? Was it? I thought our senior year we lost to Silver City, and then we lost to Roswell, and we were junior. Man, it was.
I don't know. New Mexico, though, being the fifth largest state size-wise, does create some long road trips for the sporting teams out there.
Yeah,
I guess, Ben, could you tell us a little bit about just like your high school career, like you're hitting on, and how you made your way to play on the Lobos?
Yeah, so I mean, we're born and raised in Albuquerque. We moved out to Edgewood. I think I was like second grade. And you can kind of blame Adam for that one. We can get into that later. He was actually a St. Pius Sarton for his first 2 years. And then we went out and then he became a Pinto. And that was even more awkward for him because, he's playing against his teammates at the old Duke Stadium, the sports stadium, when they still did that. But yeah, so I just went through. I played linebacker and running back there. We were in the same district with you guys when it was the original St. Pius, Socorro, Grants. Even with Eric with Capital, we'd always play those guys. And then, and then like my, junior, senior years, all districts. And then it's funny because coming out, I wasn't, compared to Kole, and Hank and those guys, I wasn't as highly recruited. But, I had my full ride offer to Eastern and it was a, PWO from UNM. It's funny. I still have my letters in my folder in the garage from Coach Mendenhall and Coach Long. So, but decided to take the full ride offer. And, then after a year, ran into Coach Long randomly. He's like, hey, the offer's still available if you want to come and walk on and, earn your spot. And that's exactly what I did. So in a nutshell.
You mentioned earned a walk-on with Bronco and Rocky. Now you've got Bronco as the head coach. If your years were correctly, you weren't there. I think you'd already moved on to BYU.
Right.
But as I mentioned,
just missed him by 1 year.
1 year. Gotcha.
1 year. I'm bugged about it to this day.
Say that again.
And I'm bugged about it to this day that I missed at least 1 year with him.
Why?
Just the knowledge that he has. Just on, the stories that, I would hear from like, Nick Spiegel and, Fala Fashola. Those were the first two that right away when I stepped on campus that, they kind of took me under their wing and, everything that they referenced, it was, Coach Mendenhall, we learned this from him. And, this was the kind of attitude that we have to have now. And he set that standard. So it was a matter of just upholding it.
No, that's a really good answer. For Lobo fans with this, season less than 11 days away. My journalism math there, I got it wrong earlier, but it can. I mentioned it to Kole and you being a linebacker, and then I want to ask you about transitioning to Lobo back because that's what for a while there was UNM was famous for in the 3-3-5, but Ian Clark and Mike Mahoric had mentioned. Okay, yeah, and I'm just reissuing the question because I want to get your answer. But they had mentioned, we weren't always the most talented. Maybe we weren't always the best, but damn, we were going to hit you, and you were going to make sure you felt it. And Rocky preached that, and I think Ian had mentioned, like, okay, we might not win today, but next week they might be that other team might be so beat up they're going to lose that week. What was it like being on a defense like that?
Oh, it was amazing. Especially, just setting that standard for one that, and then number two, exactly. We weren't the most, we didn't have the top recruits. We didn't have all the 4 stars and 5 stars, and I think that kind of even like set a precedent as far as like, hey, we have these guys that are under recruited. Like, I look at guys like Ian, Ian was a phenomenal athlete in high school, and, not saying that he's, we've settled with UNM or anything like that. Not saying that, but you kind of got that chip on your shoulder. It's like, hey, you know what? I'm going to prove it every Saturday now. And I'm going to go out there and I'm pretty much going to, knock you right in the mouth, and you're going to feel it. So, and we took pride in that. It was, like my brother told me growing up, and even Coach Long kind of reiterated the same thing. It's like, hey, you know what? Football is one of the only sports where you can just beat the shit out of somebody and you won't go to jail for it. You know what I mean? So, we kind of took that and just kind of ran with it, and obviously within the rules of the game. But
how did you prepare for that type of game in practice? Like, what did you guys do to play like that? And you don't just roll out of bed on Saturdays and be able to knock someone's block off, right? Like, what did you go through in order to be able to play like that on the weekend?
Well, I think for one, just since the boys just wrapped up 2 days now, 2 days was different. Back when it was you had 2 practices a day, maybe a weight lift in the middle. Compared to now, I think these guys will maybe have 1 practice a day, then a weight lift, and then they'll do a 2-a-day the next day, and then alternate it. Where they get to go home and sleep in their own bed, where we're off of Gibson University, staying at the University Inn, but I think a lot of it too, the one person I will say, and I give him so much credit for my career at UNM, was Coach Paulson. And I know a couple of guys have mentioned him in the past, but it was every day because, every day we worked out. And the second that you stepped in that room, it was, you better flip that switch or it's going to be one long day. And, we carried that into the practice field. And even then too, with our coaching staff that we had at that time too, I mean, obviously we had Coach Long, Coach Lewis, our defensive coordinator. I mean, he was a former linebacker for Oregon State. So he was a pretty intense guy. Grady Stretz, our D-line coach, very intense guy. I mean, so it kind of filtered from the coaches down, I would say, just looking back at all of it. And then we just ran with it.
Whoops, sorry about that. You mentioned we haven't talked about Nick Spiegel enough, and he obviously made it to the pros, and I think he played 4 or 5, 6 years for the Browns. Can you talk about him? And you said you brought him under your wing. Can you talk about the type of player he was and the type of guy he was and type of teammate?
Oh, I mean, again, another phenomenal teammate. I mean, I just remember day one, when I came in for summer workouts, he basically, welcomed me in with open arms, like, hey, you know what? Welcome to the family. And, hey, this is our standards and here's what we're going to do. And especially with the defense, because I mean, in high school, I came from, your typical 4-4, maybe a 4-3. And then next thing you know, you're learning 18 different fronts and all these different blitzes and another 18 different coverages. And, Nick, and then I got to credit to Fashola, the other outside backer, those two really helped develop me that first year. And it made that transition, even just going from summer into the fall camp, so much easier. And yeah, Nick, I mean, again, another intense guy. I mean, sometimes when you see him walking around, you're like, oh yeah, he's pretty chill. Like, but the second he steps on that field and flips that switch, it's, like I said, I feel bad for people. So, because I mean, the guy's 6'5", and runs around at 225, 230 with a, what is he running, like a 4.6? Like, that's not good.
That was dangerous. He was good.
Yeah.
What is it like, when you outside linebacker, outside linebacker and then middle linebacker, but the position itself, it seems to be so special because especially if you're a middle linebacker, you're essentially the quarterback of the defense. But what makes just being a linebacker so special to you? And then obviously playing at a UNM.
I think especially with like the position itself, I mean, it allows you pretty much, you got, almost in a sense, free range of the whole entire field. You're not limited, say like a D-line, for example, where you're just doing a pass rush or, run stop kind of deal where, a linebacker, you're filling your gaps, you're making your reads with the, with the line, you're dropping into coverage. And then you got those different coverages that you got to scramble in seconds, make a decision. Okay, where am I going? Like, the versatility, I would say, of the position is what makes it so special and unique. And again, like, it's a position where, it's violent, if you got to have that mindset where, if you can find a group of guys that that just love just going in and just hitting people, it makes the position that much more fun. So, and I used to give Luke and Evan crap all the time because, they were, corners and safeties. And it's like, you guys don't know, like, don't start with this whole like, oh, I'm gonna headhunt and this and that. It's like, stop. Like, I don't want to hear it.
Rick, do you have a question? I was going to ask about the elbow back.
I know you have a nephew on the team now, and I feel like you're pretty close to the team from your knowledge point and what I see you putting out there on social media. Do you see some of that same mentality with this team this year, about what we were just talking about from your era? Do you see that kind of being established, even though there might not be as many returning guys? There are still some native guys like your nephew and other players returning. Do you see that type of leadership taking place out there?
Yeah, at 100%. I mean, and I would say it probably happened within probably the first week that Bronco showed up with that staff. Just talking with the boys, because you got Luke and then Evan, who is there as a freshman now. And, just hearing from those two, just how excited they are again, like, and just how much they love the game again, I guess, in a sense. It was almost like a total reset. And, even like they joke, it's, with Coach Mendenhall and the staff, it's like you've got a football coach who loves football, but then he also runs it like a, corporation. / military, because you've got their strength coach, Blackjack, who, you got, I think it was former Army, so you have everything mixed into one, where, first and foremost, I mean, it's discipline is going to be number one, and I know fans have been, kind of concerned, hey, we had, so many penalties last year and, this and that. And it's like, I'm willing to bet my pension right now, you will not see that again next year with this coaching staff and with his players, because just everything that they've already instilled in these guys, and just the buy-in, and, their mantra, the earn not given, I think it's amazing, as far as earning your number, because, I mean, even like as a little kid growing up, like there was a number you had that was special to you, like for me, number 32, because, Adam, older brother, he was 32, things like that. And, so yeah, like it's meaningful because, you put in the work for that. So I think that's, really cool that he's instilling that on top of a bunch of other stuff that, I mean, we can go into for another hour if we wanted to, but yeah, I think he's great. I think just everything that I've heard from the boys and what they've told me about from other teammates, like Caleb Medford, for example. Caleb, great guy. I don't know if you guys have, you guys did the interview.
Yeah, he was great.
That guy's phenomenal. We met him, actually, it was this last Christmas for Christmas, because he stayed in town, and man, what a phenomenal guy. But I mean, the whole team was like that. It's just a bunch of guys, and it reminds me of a lot of who we had, when we were playing. It's a family.
No, that was a great answer.
Yeah.
I don't mean to backtrack, but what did you think? Because the penalties, and I know you listen to the show, and I'm the biggest, I don't have a family member on the team, but I'm very objective. I try to remain objective, and I'm very critical.
Sure.
What did you think about Danny, though? And I thought he was probably the guy for the job, in my opinion. Like when I talk to people like you, I'm just starting to feel like Bronco is probably the man for the job. I'm starting to think about it that way. I'm changing my opinion. But what did you think about Danny? I thought, because of the COVID year, I thought maybe Danny deserved one more year, but obviously winning cures all. But I was just curious what you thought about, if you knew Danny, and what you thought about him and what he thought about the job. Because I thought he really legitimately cared and he wanted to win here.
Oh, absolutely. 100%. I mean, Danny, speaking of the Lobo position, he was actually my position coach when I transitioned, because I think that was his first year actually as a position coach, because I think before that he was video coordinator. And I mean, what can I say about Danny? I mean, great guy, great family man, as you guys, probably saw with him. And, it's sad. I mean, this is the man who, for me, I mean, he gave me the opportunity to play the low position. Then at the same time too, he also gave both of my nephews the opportunity to play Division I football with a full ride scholarship. So it's, it hurt a little bit, in that sense, to see him go. And, but, I think Kole brought up a good point earlier too. I mean, with the NCAA, I mean, everything's a business now, especially with college athletics, as much as that, we try to like maybe fight it to a certain degree and like don't want it to get to that way. But in all reality, in some aspects, especially when it comes to winning and losing, that tends to happen, because, you hear the rumblings, hey, if he would have gone for it on 2 or gone for 2 on that last series, and that would have saved his job. It's like, well, I mean, do we really know that? But yeah, no, I was sad to see Danny leave. I mean, he's a great guy, a great leader. And, I wish him the best at Arizona. I mean, we could see him obviously week 2. So, him and Bill, but, I have nothing but the utmost respect and, love for him. So he did a lot for the family, I will say, in that regard, as far as opportunities.
No, I appreciate him. I thought he was awesome. He joined us on the show. We loved talking to him.
Yeah.
Your nephew is now going into a healthy season with Luke. Rick and I have made the joke, you can throw the deep ball with him on on college football 25. But
I mean, know 95.
He's got great speed. Yeah,
I'll take it.
But yeah, I'm sure he'll take it.
Yeah.
I go back to that Maine game. I don't care who you're playing. He had a touchdown. He had a punt return. Everything.
Mm-hmm.
What in talking with him? How do you feel he can be this year?
I think he can be a Swiss Army knife, in my opinion. I mean, he can kind of do it all. because I know he's actually put on quite a bit of weight too, especially with the spring with, with Blackjack and, the rest of the, weightlifting crew. But, he's one of those that he's a gadget guy. You can throw him at the slot. You can throw him in the backfield, because speaking of the main game, he scored a rushing touchdown on an option. I mean, he had his first touchdown was a rushing play compared to receiving. So it's, he can do it all. And, he's one of those, and I know Danny has said this about him in the past, where, he's one of those where it's either a home run or it's not, and I think he's really been able to learn this year that, hey, you know what, it's okay that you get the 6-yard gain, you're moving the chains, stuff like that. And I mean, yeah. And, the big thing, like you just said, is just him being healthy. It was, I know it was definitely frustrating for him for that New Mexico State game last year. Cause he had big expectations for his, I guess it was his sophomore year in a sense, but it's going to be good to see him back on the field again. And I know he's been chomping at the bit, and I've never seen a young man so excited for an opportunity just to go out and just, not to sound cliche, but represent his school, represent the fans, and just, do what he does best and just play football. He loves the game. So.
And the last name. I would say it's probably that would probably be very important to him. But I didn't ask you about the Lobo back, and I'm sorry about that. You learn how to transition to linebacker to that position. It's a hybrid.
Yep.
We all know Urlacher, yada yada.
Yeah.
But can you talk about that? How unique it is, especially at the time when you're talking 20, 25 years ago, how unique it was to UNM.
Yeah, absolutely.
College football.
Yeah. No, you're right. I mean, it was, a foreign language in that sense. Like, what is the Lobo back? Or, I think, Air Force had something similar. They call it the Bolt back or something like that.
The Spur, yeah.
Yeah, the Spur. Yeah, that's what it was. And, but it was, it was probably the best thing that happened, for me as far as football was going into, making that switch, because that position, I mean, you go to the guy with the ball, you're either, run support, or a lot of times Coach Long, I mean, he would send us on the blitz. Like the guy that, Quincy Black, I mean, he was Lobo. And I mean, you guys saw how much of a freak athlete he was,
Yes,
for a guy to run a 4.4 240 at the combine. But, but then again, it was guys like that, look at Urlacher, same type of thing where, you had guys that, like say in my position where, I was like, I don't know, 205, 210. So it's like, don't quite have the weight for a linebacker, but you know what? You still got some good weight for a safety. So we'll throw you out the linebacker or the Lobo, and away you go. And it was a lot of fun. I mean, it like I said, you go to the guy with the ball, or you're covering the number 2, number 3 man, and you get the play ball. You're basically the center fielder. So it was fun.
No, that's an awesome answer. I'd never talked to anybody who played that position. I guess I talked to Zach Arnett and all of his quirkiness. I love that guy.
Zach. That guy. Speaking of another animal, that guy was a lot of fun to play with. That guy, probably one of the most intense people I've ever known on the football field. That guy was I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, not to insult his size, but for his size at a linebacker, that guy was a machine, and he will hit you in the mouth.
And I played against and with him in Yaffle. He's been doing that since he was in 4th grade. Yeah. He was the scariest player in all of Albuquerque. People feared him in 6th and 7th grade. We just called him Arnett. Mm-hmm. You watch out for that man, because he was a bad man.
Yeah. Yeah, that whole group at that time, I mean, just looking back, I just feel very blessed and fortunate, with all the guys. Like even Kole was named me, because Kole and I, we were the same, same class of 06 with, I guess we'll both UNM, and then even at Artesia. Luckily, that game when we played Artesia our senior year, he didn't play, and we still got blown out 30-0 down at the Bulldog Bowl. And it's like, all right, this is one of those games. Okay. And then having so it was fun with all those guys, like the La Cueva guys, because you got guys like Quillen and, your Pius guys with Pino and, the Stanford brothers, those guys, it was a fun time for Lobo football, both from just, playing with basically, like we used to joke, it's like another high school in a sense. It's like you got all your guys from the high school, and now they're playing together in the one same school, so it's just another step.
And I would love to see that again. That's why I think it's great that your two nephews, are playing and representing the school. And I did hear Caleb Medford in that interview, mention how, Luke is, a big part of the leadership there, not just, on the team, but around Albuquerque. And that's just cool to see, because I would like to see more of this in-state talent, kind of combine their forces again eventually and do something similar like you guys are all talking about, because that was a great time.
Absolutely. And I mean, maybe it's just my bias. I mean, I think we can get there again. I mean, even just looking at the roster now, it's like you've got 4 or 5 Cleveland guys that are on the team. You've got 3 Los Lunas guys, a couple La Cueva guys. So I think hopefully you get to the point where it'll get there again. And, I've heard that, Broncos are going to make it a priority, just like how Danny did, to, recruit in state and keep the best players in state. So, but even like Eric mentioned earlier, I mean, when you're getting offers from, like I look at, like Mason Posa, it's like, how you gonna go to Oregon and be like, I don't know, compared to like, say, like us or NMSU, something like that, but. There is talent here in this state, and I think it's just a matter of in a sense getting these guys to buy in again to Lobo football too. I know people refer to the Loxley years. I mean, I know that was a big damper, and I mean, I'll be the first to admit I kind of checked out there for a while too with it. It's like there wasn't any pride for it, but especially having with Danny coming back, doing his thing, and then now Bronco too. I mean, I agree with Cole. That was the best hire we could have gotten, and just by, again, hearing from the boys this spring, just the way they talk about him and the staff, it's been phenomenal. I mean, even like the offensive coordinator, Jason Beck, I mean, he was the backup like when Cole and I were there, like talking with him and just reminiscing about that, just in those days. And talking with Jason, I mean, that's another great dude right there, who really knows the stuff. And, I think the fans should, be excited about. I mean, he's so knowledgeable, and even just the 5 minutes I was hearing him and Luke talk, just off to the side after the, I think it was the first scrimmage. I mean, it's amazing. So.
No, that is awesome. And I'm hoping Lobo fans will be happy to hear that. Again, I'm trying to formulate my own opinion. And the more I think I talk to some former players, I think it's a phenomenal hire. He was a UNM linebacker, Lobo back from 2003 to 2006. Everybody knows the name Wysong. We were super happy to have you on, Ben. And again, I'm so sorry it took me so long. I felt really bad. So face to face, I'm so sorry. I didn't do it on purpose. I was like, oh shit, it was like last week. I was like, oh, I got to message Ben. And then I forgot. And then I was like, well, who can we have on? I'm trying to figure out guests, and it's not like we're putting anybody on the back burner. And I just in my head, I was just like, I forgot to ask Ben. So Ben Wysong, everyone, appreciate you coming on.
No, thank you guys very much for having me. And, I appreciate, the great conversation, and, I love your guys' show. I mean, yeah, you guys will, probably see me commenting, just kind of keep some of the fans updated. I don't want to delve too much into it, but
no, we don't. Clearly, we don't want to give everything away, because I don't want to get his emotions.
Yeah, well, even then, I let the boys do their thing, so they, this is their time. So,
I forgot. I had one last thing to say. When we were talking to Luke in Vegas at Mountain West Conference Media Days, I was like, "Yeah, your uncle comments on Twitter," and he kind of rolled his eye. He was like, what is he doing now? Or I don't remember what this response was, but he was like, oh shit, yeah, my uncle's on Twitter. And I was like, yes, I love that.
Yeah, no, that's Luke. I mean, because Luke, he keeps, and rightfully so. I mean, he's, very private, keeps everything close to the chest, personality, and it's funny because, reading like with Evan, where Evan, on the other hand, he'll just tell you straight to your face how it is, and it's funny just to see the differences. And it's like, yeah, now I can see why you're a quarterback, and especially playing on a ride now. It's like I know where you get it now. So
we appreciate you joining us. I'm appreciative of you that you're a fan of the show, and that you comment. You're welcome on anytime, and when you comment, you chime in. We're happy to have you on. So everybody, Ben Wysong, thank you for your time. I hope you have a great rest of your evening and enjoy football season. Appreciate
thank you guys. We'll see you out there. Go Lobos.
Thank you, Ben.
All right, Ben Wysong joining us. We're going to take a quick commercial break. Rick or may or not join us, but we're going to go to Shannon Kelly, talk some Nevada football. She is from Nevada Sportsnet. Looking forward to talking to her. Rick, I thought Ben was great.
Yeah, man, I'm glad to finally meet him in person. Me and him go back and forth on it and Twitter once in a while. So it's nice to actually hear his voice in person here and get him on the show. A lot of great knowledge and great stories from the past. So would love to have him on again.
No, it was awesome. All right, we're going to take a quick commercial break. Rick may or may not be on with us when we come back. Who knows? I don't know. Shannon Kelly from Nevada Sportsnet coming up, talking Nevada football.
Let him cook. Let him cook now. Let him cook. I said let him cook.
Our head coach of our local football program, Bronco Mental.
The details themselves with the right preparation can separate you from mediocre competitors that don't do that. And so, yeah, the attention to detail, I think, drives the execution, or should I say brings the execution to life, especially in critical moments.
Welcome back to the show. I appreciate Rick. I appreciate Kole McKamey, quarterback for UNM from about 20 years ago. He was awesome to talk to. And Ben Wysong. I'm happy to have Ben Wysong on. Now, I've made this poor person wait for the last 18 minutes, and I'm incredibly sorry. And I've also offended the state of New Jersey because I know she's got New Jersey roots. She is a sports anchor reporter for Nevada Sportsnet and KRNV in Reno. Her name is Shannon Kelly. Shannon, how you doing?
Hey, I'm doing good. Thanks so much for having me on. No worries. I know when an interview goes, it's a really good interview and it goes long. What can you do, right? That happens. So you're all good. Thanks.
I looked at the clock and I thought, you work in TV. I come from print, and I know you work in TV. So you're probably like, this guy is not on time. Before I get into Nevada football, which is very interesting because UNM and Nevada are bottom of the Mountain West. As I was trying to figure out who I knew you worked for Nevada Sportsnet, and I was like, I think she works for another channel. Congrats on the engagement. I saw the pictures at Lake Tahoe, so just congratulations on that. I'm sure that was cool.
Thank you. It was a great day, a nice surprise. It was a gorgeous day in Lake Tahoe, and yeah, it's been a really nice summer. Let's put it that way. So now it's back to the grind. I was in Canada for 2 weeks, so yeah, it's here. Football season is here, and here we go.
Why were you in Canada?
My fiance, his family lives up there. So
gotcha.
The university all up there. And then, so yeah, we saw some family and then went to Banff, which I encourage everybody to go. It's gorgeous there. So spent some time there and, yeah, so it was a nice little trip.
Very cool. My uncle was married, my aunt was married, blood aunt was married to my uncle. My uncle's mom was from Newfoundland, so she was a Newfie. So I will say Newfie. But anyway, yes. Anyway, Just very quickly, yeah, just random knowledge. There you go. At a random, to use at a party. Did you know somebody from Newfoundland was a Newfie? But anyway, you went to Nevada and played softball at UNR, right?
I did. I graduated from the university in 2017. So
Perfect.
a little
Okay.
crazy. Little fun fact here. I transferred to Nevada. I played at Nevada in 2016 and 2017, but then I previously played at Santa Barbara City College under Paula Congleton, who was former New Mexico softball head coach. So
it's a small world. I think I covered one softball game at UNM. That is not my expertise, but people listening will like that. I don't want to keep you too much longer, so we will get into Nevada football. First year head Jeff, and I keep mispronouncing his last name, so it could be the segment on my radio show where how can I mispronounce this UFC fighter's last name, and you think I would know him watching all the football I did last year. Jeff Kole comes from Texas. He was defensive coordinator. Given that this team Nevada was 2-10, the Wolfpack was 2-10, what do you think the expectations are this season? I'll just throw that right at you.
Yeah, I think that's a good question. And, I think the expectations are that they're going to work hard and they're going to compete. I think, Coach Choate has come in and really has, revitalized this program, and these players are excited. I think there's a buzz in the air in the Wolfpack football community, that wasn't there after, back-to-back 2-10 seasons that unfortunately things just didn't work out with former Nevada assistant Ken Wilson after, he was hired when Jay Norvell left for Colorado State. But I think there is a buzz in the air, and the expectations are that they're going to compete for, a chance to win some games this season. And we'll see, how it all goes as Nevada has an early test against SMU, which is going to be a tough opponent as they visit Mackey Stadium here on August 24th.
Yeah, they're one of the two Mountain West teams that plays on August 24th. And that's a big test as SMU joins the ACC. And it's kind of why I'm happy to have you on is because UNM and you cover Nevada is, New Mexico basketball is at the forefront. It's kind of almost like sometimes football takes a back burner, but what Nevada has with a little bit of a history over the last 15, 60 years, you throw the Colin Kaepernicks out. I remember that game against Boise State. I'm starting to show my age, but is Nevada football program an afterthought, or is it more of a basketball school?
Well, I think, it depends on, as you said, when. I think, basketball's had more success the last, several years. So many may think, hey, it's a basketball school. But then you look back, the years that of Colin Kaepernick and, when Chris Alt, was here and was the head coach, and the legacy that Coach Alt left. I think many can argue that Nevada is still a football school, but I think it's tough when, there are back-to-back 2-10 seasons, and the basketball program has had a lot of success under Coach Alford and, went to the NCAA tournament the past 2 years. So I think it's a tough question because I'll be honest, I feel like it changes from time to time. You look in 2021 when, Nevada had Carson Strong, Romeo Dobbs, and Cole Turner. You could argue that was one of the better teams Nevada's had in the past decade. So, I think it's, tough to really say. I feel like that question, that answer, I should say, changes from time to time.
No, that's fair. I hear that. Is Jay Norvell still public enemy number one in Reno, or is it Boulder?
Oh man, I think I got to let the fans answer that question.
That's okay.
State visits Nevada here this year. Nevada goes down to UNLV, so there's some good rivalries on the schedule per se.
No, understood. Brock Purdy's younger brother is fighting to play QB. His name's Chuba Purdy. Fantastic. He was finally healthy for the final week of spring. He's in the mix with Brendan Lewis, who UNM fans saw beat UNM in Reno last year, or AJ Bianco. What do you know about this QB battle, and who would be probably starting against SMU in about 11 days?
Yeah, so Chuba Purdy, he went down during the second practice of fall camp with a little minor shoulder injury. And, we haven't seen him throw since. It's been a lot of Brendan Lewis and AJ Bianco. So I would, it's tough because we haven't really seen where he's at and we haven't seen him throw. So nothing's been officially decided yet, but if my, gut had to tell me, it's probably going to be Brendan Lewis. As of right now, as he was returning from last year, we saw AJ Bianco, Anthony Grigsby transfer as well. But Chubba Purdy has been dealing with some minor shoulder injuries. So we don't know the extent of where that's at, but it is nothing serious per Coach Choate. So we'll see kind of how things roll here this next week, but no official decision has been made on a starting QB yet.
The offense has had a lot of transfers at skill positions. Pat Garwo, the third Boston College running back, and Cortez Bram Jr., he played at West Virginia. You've got some P5 experience coming in. What do these guys bring to the offense?
Yeah, so I think with Cortez Bram, I think, he's certainly been showing a lot of positives during fall camp, along with the Tarleton State and Montana State transfer, Jaden Smith at wide receiver. We haven't seen much of Patrick Garwo. He's been hurt as well. He was hurt during spring. He's been hurt during fall camp with an undisclosed injury. So we haven't seen anything from him yet. But also you have, Savion Red coming in from Texas at running back. So it's a pretty crowded running back room with Sean Dollars, Ashton Hayes returning. But, it's positive to see that these skill guys are coming in with playing experience at, as you mentioned, at some Power 5 and bigger schools.
The offensive line might be considered the strength of the team. Isaiah World there. Is this maybe the strength of the offense or strength of the team?
I think, there's a lot of question marks as far as, what can Nevada put together on the offensive line to have a strong enough run game that Coach Choate is looking for. I mean, he said, during his first initial press conference when he was hired, Coach Choate said, we're going to run the damn ball. So I think it'll be interesting to see how the offensive line will all come together. I think it's a matter of, them all being in unison and working together as one, of course, but how, are those guys going to step up? Because that has been a problem the last several seasons. That hasn't been one of Nevada's strong suits. So I think as of right now, I think the skill positions, you look at the talent that there is and how can all that gel together, throughout the season and continue to progress and improve as the weeks go on.
We're joined by Shannon Kole of Nevada Sportsnet and KNRV. Just a couple more questions for you. I don't want to keep you much longer. And again, once again, I'm going to butcher somebody's name. Henry Ika Hifo. He's with us. I hope I got that right. Good God, I feel so bad. Henry Ika Hifo is the second. Say that again.
Ika Hifo. It's a tough one.
Ika Hifo. I'm glad I got that. I taught myself how to say Tungavailoa. So, hey, I can do that. He's in his second stint with Nevada. He went to he went to Cal. I can't talk tonight. You never know I hosted a show. He went to Cal. He transferred back. He's kind of an interesting story. I think his brother plays on the team. His cousin told him to go back because of Coach Choate. What kind of player is he? And is that kind of a cool story as well?
Yeah, I think it's super cool. You look at Henry Kahihifo, he came into Nevada under Jay Norvell, and then he transferred. He went to a junior college. He switched positions. Then he went to Cal. Then he came back under Coach Wilson last year, but he was actually ruled ineligible due to some transfer rules. So he didn't play last year. He was on the sidelines. And then, one of his cousins who played for Coach Choate at Montana State, said, hey, I would stick it out with him. You really, like playing for Coach Choate. So sure enough, he did. And he said he's so thankful. He feels like that he's grateful for this next opportunity here this year. And it was great to chat with him at Media Day as well. He was one of the players Nevada brought down, and just to hear the excitement that there is surrounding this program and, how the summer workouts were going at the time and the competition that was already heating up during those summer workouts. And I think he's really going to be, a big leader for Nevada's defense as he switched now to an edge rusher this season. So I think his presence will certainly be important on the end.
That's a great. I was reading up about it before media days, and I thought that was an awesome story. I didn't get to speak to him, but that very cool story. I thought so. Last question for you. Seems to be a full Nevada rebuild. Do you think that maybe this is one of the hardest jobs in the country? I mean, I honestly didn't think they would be voted 12th in the conference. I thought it was going to be UNM, but just kind of maybe the job that's at hand here, rebuilding Nevada football from what was left over from Ken Wilson.
Yeah, and I think, that's certainly a valid question because there's a lot of rebuild. I think Nevada's still, in a lot of ways rebuilding from after when Jay Norvell left, and that was a couple seasons ago. At media day, Coach Cho had made a comment and he said, I think this is going to be one of the easiest coaching jobs ever because there's no expectations and we can just let it rip every day. And I thought that was a very interesting perspective, given how Coach Choate's been coaching for many, years now, that, there aren't many expectations. So there's no pressure per se. So I think in a lot of ways, it's a very interesting situation and, teams aren't going to necessarily know what to expect. I don't think out of Nevada this year either, given that there has been a lot of roster turnover. So until, games start being played and there's film, which will happen soon enough here, but I think it can definitely be seen as, this is, a program that's going to be rebuilt, but in Coach Choate's eyes, hey, it's going to be, we don't have, there's not crazy high expectations being on the other side of that pole. So it'd be interesting to see what Nevada can do here this season.
You can catch her. Nevada football opens up their season after UNM in 11 days. They host SMU. You can catch her on Nevada Sportsnet and KNRV. I hope I had that right. I closed my notes down. You can correct once again, dumb drunk print journalist. We have more fun than TV people anyway. And then I started this. Her name is. Say that again. I'm sorry.
No, you got it. Nevada Sportsnet.
Perfect. No, I knew it was Nevada Sportsnet. I'm glad I got that right. Her name is Shannon Kelly. Shannon, thank you so much for joining me. I apologize for making you wait, but I appreciate you making a little bit of time with us here at the Pit Press Live and all my usual suspects of buffoons that joined me on this show. I really appreciate your time. It was a pleasure. Thank you very much.
Of course. You're very welcome. Thanks for having me on and talk with you soon.
Sounds good. That's Shannon Kelly with Nevada Sports Net. I am going to wrap up the show. We're going to take a quick commercial break, and then I'll break down some things for the morning. Who we've got this week, tomorrow night and Thursday night. Try not to say as much. And then I'll go through some comments. Didn't have a question tonight because we were jam-packed with guests. But I thought it was a really good show. You can't beat Kole McKamey and you can't beat Ben Wysong, and I really appreciate Shannon Kelly. I'll be right back. This is the Pit Press Live. My name is Ryan Tamori.
Let him cook. Let him cook now. Let him cook. I said let him cook.
our head coach of our local football program, Bronco Mental.
The details themselves with the right preparation can separate you from mediocre competitors that don't do that. And so, yeah, the attention to detail, I think, drives the execution, or should I say brings the execution to life, especially in critical moments.
Welcome back to the show. It's, for some of you watching, it's your favorite person. It's me, Ryan Tamori. Pit Press Live. Appreciate Rick. Appreciate Eric joining. Kole McKamey, Ben Wysong, Shannon, Kelly from Nevada Sportsnet. Much appreciated. I wanted to give you a rundown of what else we're doing this week. We have, what was it? Let me get, once again, fantastic live interneting. Curtis Flakes, head coach at St. Pius. I think tomorrow night. Yeah, tomorrow night. Curtis Flakes, and he's a former DB from UNM from 2000 to 2004. He's the head coach at St. Pius. He's going to join us tomorrow night at 9 o'clock. Before him, Andrew Baus from Andrews College Football Tour. He's a former SI rider. The reason we're having him on, he's never been to UNM. He's coming to the Montana State game, and this will be his first time in Albuquerque and his first time at University Stadium. I'm going to get a lot of trouble for this. I told him to come back. I told him to go to the pit. You can follow him at College FB Tour on Twitter. Looking forward to talking to him. That will be at 8:15 tomorrow night. At 8:30, Colby Dant. I met this guy in Vegas. He's a part of SGPN, or the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. He used to be a former stand-up comedian. You can catch him on SGPN, The College Experience, and I believe his Twitter at Colby Dant, and that's D-A-N-T. Looking forward to him. And then again, Curtis Flakes at 9, former DB for UNM, and then head coach of our St. Pius X Sartans. We really hope everybody appreciated Kole McKamey. We were really trying to get him on for a while there. Much appreciated to him. I thought he was a fantastic interview. Give me a second. I got to plug in my PC before it dies, before I get out of here. Again, you can, not done with the show yet, but follow us on Twitter or X at the Pit Press NM, Instagram, thepitpressnm.com. We need to add more to our website. Our website looks great. We just need to add more to it. And then our mailbag, which Jimmy H has mailed into, and then we've had a couple other people. There it is, thepitpressnm@gmail.com. We're always checking it. Again, don't have a comment of the night, question of the night, excuse me, but I definitely wanted to run through the comments. And you can take this how you want. I'd say it's a big one. Rudy Chavez, good show tonight. It is something we're capable of doing. I'm just opinionated. Jimmy H, I will go to you. I won't play Trick Daddy for you. Cole was one of the best interviews ever. I thought he was awesome. He was great. He was really candid. As much as I love a couple of the other guys we've talked to, I've really come to appreciate Ian Clark. Dontrell Moore. I always mention Daniel Ferris. I think everybody knows that. I thought Landrick Brody was great. I thought he was phenomenal. But again, Casey Kelly is somebody that we are efforting. I would love to have him on. I think Hank Baskett is now in the mix since we had Kole on. But, everybody, all the former Lobos that we have on, I really appreciate it. Ronnie Chavez, I will get to this one. I switched from watching my Dodger game versus Brewers for you guys. Best damn show ever. Well, we appreciate that. J-Rod 17, Casey Kelly and Kole McKamey, my favorite QBs back. Great memories of Mike Powers on Channel 13. Yeah, that was some good stuff. Only thing top this interview off is hear a howl coming from the tree line. That would be fantastic. John Romero, when I'd shake Rocky's hand, it was like shaking the hand of George Foreman, and fingers and fists were scary from impact standpoint. Ouch. I thought that story about him, Kole McKamey being Rocky Long's weightlifting partner or sparring partner was incredibly awesome. And again, thanks to Ben Wysong. it was great talking to him. Awesome, Ben. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Wysong. And then would love to hear about Evan Wysong as well. How great it would be to see the Wysong brothers returning kicks. That would be awesome. So as far as we go with our Morning Hal show, again, we're going to be coming to you live every Saturday. We started last week. This Saturday, and I'll continue to revisit this the next 2 nights. I don't really care for polls or lists or anything, but I'm going to give my top 25 for the season. I'll probably give you my Mountain West pick. The more and more that I talk to people, I'm and I've mentioned it on these show on our Pit Pass Live and in the Morning Hal. I'm somewhere in between, and it's no disrespect. It's just reality. I'm somewhere in between this football team this year under Bronco Mendenhall with his first year being 0-12 and 7-5. I don't know what to expect. I really don't. I'm not trying to steal that from Jeff Symbieta. I just don't. But when you talk, I think a rejuvenation from football is what Ben talked about tonight. I like hearing that. That is a big deal to me. When I hear those things, it gets me amped up. I never said this as my time as a reporter at the Daily Lobo or the time I was designing a page at the Journal with the sports section. I never cared who won or lost. I changed my opinion. But in owning this business and what we do here, the amount of people that flock to us, and this is not tooting our own horn, the amount of people that flock to us with the success of this basketball team, I didn't expect it. You know, when we went live in a year and a half of doing this thing back in March and April, when we went live after the selection show, I don't know how many people we had watched. We went live the day before the tournament at noon. I took the day off personally to do that, and to see this grow and to see the amount of people watching. And then we went live a couple times, and I couldn't believe, you know, we averaged roughly about 100 people, and I get during the summer, during basketball, it was 200. And during some of the 2 weeks during the tournament, we had over 400 people watching us. That blew my mind. Trust me, when I am glass half empty. When we started this thing, I thought we were going to have 10 to 11 people watching. So again, Jimmy H, I'm giving you a hard time, but to all of our viewers out there, we really appreciate it. Eric and I appreciate it. Ed Nunez appreciate it. Rick Thompson appreciate it. When Jacob Neff and Nick Nunez joined, they appreciate it. I mentioned it all the time on here. When Eric came to me for this show, this idea, this concept, when it was just a recorded podcast in January of 2023, I did not expect us to be a live show, which is something I wanted to do and talk more national stuff. And you guys always hear me bitch and moan about New York sports. I grew up in the backdrop of that. But, you know, UNM athletics on a daily is important to me, and I want to hear about it. And I'm continuing this ramble, but we appreciate everybody listening. So again, we just introduced it this past Saturday, and we'll continue that going. If you want all and only football talk, it's the Morning Hal. It's still under this platform. Again, the name of our company is New Mexico Alumni Media. This show is the Pit Press Live. I think what we're going to continue to do every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. I don't know how we're going to manufacture that during football season and how we will approach it in 2 weeks. Next week, we will be going live on Thursday, August 22nd from Turquoise Desert Tap Room. We do have a guest line up for next week. Dontrell Moore, the new journalist at the Las Cruces Sun News, who covers New Mexico State athletics. Look, I know this is a New Mexico University of New Mexico centric show. A lot of Aggie alumni, a lot of NMSU alumni in the northern part of the state, whether it be Albuquerque, you go a little bit to Santa Fe. We still want to capture that audience. I think Jerry Kill was fascinating to me. So I still do care about New Mexico State athletics. And, you know, for those that probably are going, what? You know, keep your friends close, keep your enemies closer, for the diehard fans that listen to us. But again, next week we will be part of a giveaway with two season tickets with Turquoise Desert Tap Room and what Armando's doing on over there. It's great. It's only a hop, skip, and jump away on 528 from Santa Ana Star Casino. Make a bet there. Go watch the game at Turquoise Desert Tap Room. Again, we'll be live there. I don't know specifically what guests we will have, or what days, but again, I know Dontrell Moore, the new reporter writer for the Las Cruces Sun News. I don't have his name in front of me. I apologize. And then we do also have somebody that covers Montana State lined up. So we will have them on. Ronnie, I believe you had asked, are we trying to get radio personalities the day of the game? I'm trying to get anybody on that'll talk to us, especially day of the game. And that was an idea of mine. Ned James, former quarterback in 1986 and 87 at the University of New Mexico. He is on KNML or KKOB post halftime and pregame show. Love Ned. He's always got great opinions. We will have him on Saturday. He said to remind him on Friday he'll join us. He loves Ed and I. So looking forward to talking to him. Haven't talked to him in a while. He's probably got some interesting thoughts on UNM and the football program over there. He works for UNM too. Ronnie Chavez, Ryan, real quick, say that 3 times fast, real quick. What's your thoughts on Eddie Nunez being leader for Houston AD job? I'm not sure. I'm not shocked he's leaving. I have heard grumblings since I have moved back that he is probably during the time when I moved back, when I started to get more acclimated with UNM athletics. I'm sorry, I can't do 2 things at once. I'm a man. I was trying to read some text messages too. That, he came from LSU and that he was probably looking to leave. I wouldn't be shocked if he's left again. I know people get really pissed off at me when I say this, and I don't necessarily want it to be the case. And I don't think it's going to be the case for Bronco Mendenhall, especially if he wins here, that Eddie Nunez was looking to go elsewhere. I think Eddie Nunez, I've talked to, not going to name names. Seems like everybody that I talked to, Eddie Nunez, he's beloved. I only know a couple people that have said, I question his job. I've personally appreciated the job he's done here. Patino was a good hire. I thought Danny was a slam dunk. Even if he leaves, you can thank him for bringing Bronco Mendenhall if that thing gets changed. Money talks, man. I think he's gone. And the grumblings I've heard is that he's gone. I'm not reporting anything. He is allegedly gone. But I think he's done a good job here. I wasn't too thrilled with the cut to men's soccer. That had been predominantly a good program. But I think Eddie Nunez has done a fine job here. Sorry, you can't turn down the University of Houston. Think about that market. What, 6th or 7th biggest one in the country? So I think he's gone. And with what, oh my goodness, the basketball coach, his name is escaping me, what he's done there with that program. And I think Dana Altman, got fired from Houston, but they're looking to revitalize that program that's had some success. I think he's leaving. I don't know when or where. It's just the grumblings I've heard. But again, check our show out Saturday morning, the Morning Howl. It is a UNM football pregame show every Saturday during football season at 9 a.m. We will make adjustments for that game when they play San Diego State on Friday night. However, UNM plays UCLA that Friday night on Kelvin Sampson. Thank you. I could not think about it. The older I get, the brain farts I have. But yeah, we will try to figure out what we're going to do November 8th when UNM plays UCLA in Vegas in basketball and UNM plays. I will be at the UCLA game. But as far as what we will do for football when they play San Diego State that night, I don't know. Again, tomorrow night, we've got guests, Andrew Baus, Andrew's college tour, Colby Dant, the St. Pius head coach whose name keeps escaping me. Oh, see, there I go again. I can't even get it right. Curtis Flakes, I believe. He'll be on at 9. And then what I've got so far for Thursday night, and it might be more of an opinion show where I get the whole gang together. Jason Turner, who I love talking to, covers Utah State football for the Logan, Utah Herald Journal. I'll have him on. Again, we appreciate everybody watching. Thank you to Kole McKamey. Thank you to Ben Wysong. Thank you to Shannon Kelly. We will talk to you tomorrow night, 8 o'clock on the dot, Jimmy H. Everybody have a good night. Have a good Wednesday. See ya. Talk to you tomorrow night.
Our head coach of our local football program, Bronco Mendenhall.
The details themselves with the right preparation can separate you from mediocre competitors that don't do that. And so, yeah, the attention to detail, I think, drives the execution, or should I say brings the execution to life. especially in critical moments.